Good day and welcome. Our guest today is a Canadian icon, a host and MC for internationally recognized Canadian performances represented by BAM, Baird Artist Management, a founder of Income.ca, a teacher of success principles along with hypnotherapy sessions at hypnohub.com, performing at the age of 5 with decades of experience, an entertainer, actor, television and film personality, a partner with the Wonderful Media Corporation. You may recognize him from his performance in MacGyver, Senior Skip Day, Skyforce, Christmas, Cupid's Arrow, Zombie Tidal Wave, The Second, The Tale of Two Guns, The Most Dangerous Game, Breakout, or Hunting Games. Perhaps he looks familiar from one of his many comedian tours. You may also recognize his name from one of his productions in Honeymoon in Paradise, Killer Bees, Ghost Towns of Canada, The Lost Angel, 710 Split, Chupacabra versus the Alamo, A Mermaid's Tale, New Year's Kiss, or Puppy Swag Love Unleashed. These are just a few of his many production titles. Please welcome actor, hypnotist, comedian, magician, speaker, mentalist, and author, Randy Charach. Thank you so much for your time and welcome.
Oh, well, thank you, Chris. That's a hell of an introduction. I couldn't have written it better myself.
There's so many things that I would have loved to have added, but it's just it's a beautiful career that you have, and I'm excited to see it continue.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I want to dive into it with you. Randy, at the age of 5, you started performing. When did you know that you wanted to become a magician?
I was in Las Vegas with my family. I'm from Vancouver, live in Vancouver. But my uncle was a magician in Las Vegas, and on a family vacation, we went to visit, and he taught me a little magic trick with little sponge bunnies that multiplied in my hands, and then took me aside, and we did that for the whole family. And he did the trick, and then he took me aside and showed me how it was done, gave me my little set of bunnies, and from then on, I was just really hooked on magic. It was like I just thought, I love this. It's the coolest thing, and just never grew out of it.
So would you say that your uncle was a large part of the inspiration for you to continue in that career?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't meet him again. He passed away when I was 12. And at that point, I inherited his massive collection of magic props. It was he had a huge amount because he also had a magic shop and he was a collector. There was, basically like a small warehouse full of magic. And I got all that stuff. And living with my parents, of course, because I was a kid, filled up our garage and basement with the stuff. And I had quite a head start with that as far as getting into doing magic shows and having lots of access to props.
Is there a magic trick that your uncle showed you or that you learned more or less like at the beginning of your career that you still perform?
Yeah, the rabbit one. I don't perform a lot anymore. I actually am doing a show this week, but in the last 5 years, I've been focusing more on my acting and producing career. But when I perform for a small audience, I will still do the bunny trick. I mean, it's just a great trick. And I tell the story about how it was the first trick I learned. So it has some sentimental story, entertainment value built into it.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people might not know this, but you're a renowned mentalist as well. Can you explain the difference for us between magic and mentalism?
Sure. Mentalism is magic of the mind. I call myself a mind magician, uh, especially because that also covers hypnosis. But for mentalism, it's, instead of a magician saying pick a card and then finding the card in the deck, a mentalist would create that same effect by saying think of a card and then just tell you what it is. So there's a lot less props. It's more to do with, in the realm of mind reading and psychic abilities. I don't profess to have true psychic abilities more so than anybody else who, focuses on these types of things. And there definitely is some magic behind the scenes going on to make the appearance of an actual psychic.
So, what do you prefer? Is it more of a magician sleight of hand or the mentalism? If you could only pick one to focus on, what would you choose?
Well, definitely mentalism. I mean, back in, okay, so going way back to when I started performing, let's just say, in the 70s. And I did magic probably for the first couple decades. And then for the last, 30 years, I've been doing mentalism. And it's just a much more advanced form of magic. I find it, and the audiences find it much more entertaining and more amazing. So I almost strictly do mentalism. And then I've also added hypnosis in the last few years into my show as well. But even that, it's not so much. I have done the ones where I hypnotize, a whole group of people and have them on chairs, and you might have seen videos of that sort of thing, and have them do all sorts of crazy stuff. I no longer do that. In my new show, I blend more power persuasion. Just like the most I'll do is probably get someone to forget their name, or that sort of thing, which is cool. And it takes out that whole preamble of the 20 minutes or so to get everybody hypnotized. I skip all that and just go straight into power of suggestion demonstrations more, and it's a lot more fun, faster, entertaining, cool.
So how do you practice and refine that skill? I mean, being a magician, sleight of hand, you can kind of see how you would practice that, but how do you practice mentalism and refine that?
Yeah, I never really have. I mean, I've done it in practical terms in my live shows. So, for example, the mentalism, my first act I put together was in 1994. I remember it well because uh, actually, I guess I didn't remember it well. It was 1996, but anyway, it was back then. And I actually made friends with a mentalist who's in Las Vegas right now. He calls himself a mentalist. He's at the Planet Hollywood, Jerry McCambridge. He taught me a bunch of stuff. I went to New York where he lived, and he helped me, as well as this other mentalist named Banachek, who actually also has a show in Vegas right now. And this is going back, 30 years. And so they helped me a lot. I became part of what was called the PEA, or still is, the Psychic Entertainers Association. And from there, I just did, as I've always done with the magic shows or any type of presentation that I do, customize it to my own personality, put in my own jokes and blend of entertainment and showmanship in the presentations, which is what makes each performer unique.
So can you discuss with us the role of psychology and misdirection in the performance when it comes to mentalism?
Yeah, psychology and misdirection. So the misdirection would come in the same form as it would if it was a magic trick. So if there's like a move or something that the performer, the mentalist, doesn't want people to see, then you direct people's attention here when you're doing it over here, and that's the misdirection. And there's not a lot of that in mentalism. There is more of the first thing you just asked about, which is the psychology. And in that sense, it's really getting people in that mindset, and it's the role of an actor really, to portray a true psychic. And that's where the psychology jargon, which may or may not be true, but it doesn't matter. It's just like wrestling isn't necessarily all real. It's
Right.
a show. So there may be preamble and discussions in the presentation about psychology that may or may not actually be happening. Perhaps just the presentation of that is the psychology
Oh,
within
wow.
itself. So there's lots of layers to it.
Well, that's really neat. So
Mhm.
in your career and these performances that you've done, is there one that you could just reflect back to and say, wow, that was the most memorable one that I've had?
Yeah, actually, I mean, probably the last big show that I did was just what is it now? So it was 6 years ago, and it was I was at a theater here in Vancouver, and I did two shows, and I in one evening, and they were both sold out. It was a nice audience, and it
Wow.
was a lot of people who knew me also over the past, say, 20 years, who our kids grew up together, and they never really got a chance to see me perform because, other than if it was something like, televised, but otherwise I was out doing mostly corporate gigs and casinos and cruise ships and, that sort of thing. So they knew that I did this, but they didn't really, see me. So I thought this would be a nice chance to do like a local show. And it was really great. It was a great night. And I knew it was going to be my last show for a while because I had a bunch of movies booked right after that. And that was that transition period. Well, then COVID happened. But anyway, and that was a whole other situation during a year where I just did something else completely different. Um, which are the websites which you mentioned earlier in the introduction. But yeah, I would say that maybe because it's most recent. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm still doing a couple shows here and there, and they're more smaller ones that I do, more fundraisers and like VIP events where I'll show up maybe for a half an hour or something like that.
Wow. Do you do anything that's a staple to your show that helps create that sense of wonder? And it's, you get out on stage, you're performing the mentalism or the magician, the magic act, and then you say, this is what I'm going to do to help highlight this perception and sense of wonder for the audience.
Well, yes and no. I mean, to me, the answer is by making things light and funny and fast moving. That's going to help everything else that you just mentioned indirectly. And so foremost, above and beyond anything that I'm actually doing, whatever trick or whatever you want to call it that I'm doing, presentation, as long as it's engaging and funny. So I use 3Ms. I think in some of my promotions, like magical, meaningful, and memorable. And so those are the three most important things that I want to get out of every minute that I'm on stage with my audience, regardless of what I'm actually doing.
Magical, meaningful, and memorable.
And memorable, yes.
Now, you're actually a very accomplished actor as well. What made you switch gears?
I started in acting and dabbled in filmmaking from the start of my career in the late 80s. And as far as my career in that realm of filmmaking and acting. And I did some stuff, but what I found was I would go for auditions and locally, and I'd have to go for 100 auditions to get one role. It's literally, your chances of getting something is because it's not necessarily based on your skill. It's a lot on, do you fit what that character is in the mind of the directors and producers who are making the decisions, and they already pretty much have that made up. Sometimes if you go do something unique and take a chance, which I do on every audition, I would, they'll see something that they like different. But usually you want to try to fit in the mold, which is kind of boring to do that anyway. But your chances are better. So what I found was I didn't love doing the audition process. I got a few roles. It was fine, but that was in contrast to me having my phone ring off the hook every day for people offering me way more money, way nicer conditions, no audition, just will you come and show up and do a show? And so it was just, that was the path that I chose. Now, as I've gone older and I've done a lot of things on my bucket list, including, earning money enough to, take care of my family and this sort of thing and different performances. And I thought, I think I deserve now to be able to go back to what I really did like doing, which was the actual acting. And I just shortcut that whole process by producing my own films. So, now I'm deciding that I'm doing this role and I'm hiring the director, I'm choosing the script. So I've always looked at show and business as equally as important. I did the same thing when it comes to filmmaking and acting. So yes, there have been several movies that I've acted in that I auditioned for and I earned the role that way and I didn't produce. But like the last 5 movies in the last 5 years, or I've done 7 or 8, I think 4 or 5 of those anyway were ones that I produced myself and cast myself in. Now, having said that, I have a movie in production right now that I decided not to act in. So, they're separate and connected when it makes sense.
No, of course. And what is it about acting that draws you in? What about that? What is that experience like that says, man, I just want to get my teeth into acting? What is that like for you?
Well, I've always been a really, childlike type personality and playful and so taking on another character, I actually really enjoy learning about the character, making decisions and choices based on, what I pick up from the script. And, memorizing isn't the correct term. It would be learning your lines, even that. I would say it goes more layers than that. It's really learning who you are in that situation and what is your relationship to the other actors. So all that work that goes on, I actually love that work prior to being on camera. Now, once I'm in camera, if I've done the work properly, then I'm not really that aware. Just I'm in the same sort of flow zone as I am when I'm doing a show. and I'm not thinking. My subconscious mind is now taken over, and I am that character. And whether I'm doing a mentalism show or acting as a bad guy or a good guy or whatever, I'm in that moment, and well, all things going correctly, I should be in that moment. So that part I can't say I necessarily love, because I don't, like, yeah, it's a kind of a rush afterwards, but looking back, I almost forget what I did. And then I like seeing the finished product as well. Like, there's a lot of actors and friends that I have who's, they don't watch their work, and that's really common. I'm not like that. I want to see how the whole thing, especially because I'm a producer, but I want to see, not to judge the quality of my acting, but I just want to see how it all panned out. And so I love watching it, and I love the prep, and the actual acting part of it is great too. There's, it's a lot of fun.
Now, you've mentioned being a producer a few times now. When you look at your success as a producer, can you share with us some of the responsibilities that you take on as a producer of a production?
Sure. I mean, so from beginning to end, just breaking it down really simply in a few steps. Initially, it starts with the script. So, I'm always looking at scripts. People send them unsolicited all the time. I generally don't look at those. If one catches my eye for a reason, because I might be, say, for example, right now I'm looking for horror scripts. So if somebody, they come every day, and so I'll see a horror script, I'll read the synopsis, and I have no shortage of writers and places to find scripts. So so typically I will look through my own sources for scripts. The odd one that comes unsolicited, I'll read. And usually I'm 20 pages into it, and whether I want to know whether I want to continue or not. And normally I don't, because it's got to be good, fit all the blocks, all the marks. And I'm also on the lookout for a role that I want to do, that I want to take on, and that's part of my motivation to choose a script. Once I have my script, then I'll usually decide which director. I have a bunch of director friends and people that I've become friends with through being in their films, and so kind of works well for a lot of them too. If somebody casts me in their movie as an actor and I get to know them and like them, then I turn around hiring them. That happens a lot. So I've used a lot of the same directors, or not used, hired and collaborated with. And often I'll choose directors who have already the majority of their team. They have their director of photography, and they have their preferred people. So I'm not out hiring 100 people. I'm making a contract with a few heads of departments. Then we go out. One of those people is a locations person, and so we have our locations. We shoot the film, and then it goes into the editing process. I work with those people, and in the meantime, I've either sold the script in the show in advance, which I normally do based on the script and the cast, or I then have the finished film and I go out and sell it. So 2 weeks ago on Tubi, which is a streamer, they're a great streamer actually. They have a ton of content and good content, and they're free. They run ads. Anyway, they licensed my last film, which is called Hunting Games, and they licensed it for 5 years to make it an exclusive Tubi original. And then I did another deal with a foreign distributor. So that's the beginning, from script to selling it or delivering it. If it's pre-sold, regardless, it still has to be delivered. And yeah, it's and there's so many moving parts in between. I've really simplified it.
And you said Hunting Games is on Tubi right now.
It is, yeah. It just released a couple of weeks ago. I just delivered it to them, a month ago. Sold it to them 3 months ago. First read the script about a year ago. So and now I'm working with them and with other streamers and distributors and studios who have shown an interest in different types of films that they've seen me do or they want me to do. And so now I'm working, that's pretty much how it goes now, is I'll work specifically with a distributor on a certain type of film they want to do. And, I mentioned horror, so I do have distributor that wants some horror films from me. And I'm not a big horror film fan, but making horror films sounds like fun, and I've been in a couple, so that should be fun. So I'm looking at scripts now.
So with all of this experience that you have, can you tell us some of the significant changes or trends that you've observed in this industry?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, as far as like the live performance stuff, because you know that one we're talking now about a 40-ish year career, and that a lot has changed. I mean, from the business side, I remember having like a little file box with numbers and names that I get out of the yellow page phone book, and I would call on the dial on the rotary phone, and like, hi, I'm Randy Charach, magician, and are you looking for an entertainer for your corporate event? And now it's, of course, you go online if somebody's looking for an entertainer, they search magician in Vancouver, or corporate event entertainer and wherever, and all of a sudden, there's dozens of pages of different um, websites with videos, and before it was like I had the VHS videos that I would mail out, and so
Jeez.
the business side with technology has changed immensely. As far as performance wise, on the show side, yeah, things have changed a lot, but for the sake of my fellow mentalists, I don't really want to tip what's changed it a lot, but I can tell you that from when I went and did my first mentalism show, um, which comprised of, before a big shift, comprised of a couple of books and a pad of paper and a pencil and, a blindfold. That was kind of like, the least usual item, but now there's all sorts of other things going on behind the scenes with technology that makes like just the ability for people to do kind of seemingly impossible, more impossible presentations is out there. So yeah, both sides, the both show and business have changed a lot. The film stuff, yeah, I mean, it's gone from movie theaters to streamers. That's been the big change there. So in both cases, technology.
And Randy, where can people learn more about you outside of Google and Yahoo? Perhaps they can ask Jeeves, but where can they learn more about Randy?
RandyCharach.com, RandyCharach.com is my website. And from there, I have links to my hypnohub.com, which is all about hypnosis. And I have videos of my performances, both as an actor in films and from my live shows. And there's a contact form if people want to reach out to me as well. That's the best place, really.
Fabulous. And Randy, what is something that people tend to misunderstand about you?
Well, I think it's really more with friends, and they would think that I'd be the life of the party, and sometimes I am, but I'm actually generally a quiet person, and not shy, just quiet. I listen a lot more than I talk, and so I mean, I was out with a group of friends last night, and they all know now. They've all seen my show now because I did that Vancouver show. Everybody came to see it, which is great. They've seen me in the movies. They know that I'm a performer, and there was four of us, and we were having dinner and playing poker and just having a good laugh. And I probably spoke much less than everybody else, and so I've nobody, they know my personality, and I'll crack a joke more than I'll join in conversations about politics or world affairs, whatever's going on. I'm kind of less interested in that, more interested in having a good laugh and that sort of thing. So I think some people would probably think that I'm shy. I'm not. I'm just a little bit more reserved, quiet person when I'm not performing.
Wonderful. And what is something that you believe society should start doing or stop doing as of tomorrow? If you could wave that magic wand.
Oh, that's an excellent question. Can I give two answers?
100%. Yeah.
I would say one, stop texting while you're walking, because I think that's really dangerous. And I see people doing it all the time, and it's like zombies. But I would say that would be like, I'm going to give that one is kind of almost more like a joke. But seriously, um, meditate. I've been meditating every day for 30 years, and the odd day that I miss, which is really rare, I feel it, and it's kind of it's I spend 20 minutes each morning, and sometimes I'll do a second meditation later in the day. But first thing I do in the morning is I get some fresh air, and I sit on. I have a deck. If you don't have a deck, then sit anywhere, whatever. but it'd be nice if you get a little fresh air. If you can be by nature, it's great. But if not, just sit in your bed or your chair, and meditate. And that could be as simple as just focusing on your breathing for 20 minutes. I think if everybody did that, they'd be so much calmer. I know I am, and just be able to be more, take that throughout the day, be more mindful throughout the day, which would mean you wouldn't be texting and walking, because you'd be more mindful if you take that 20 minutes and just once you do it every day, it becomes more ingrained in your daily activities. And there'd be less people killing each other and suing each other and fighting, and it would just be I think a happier planet, happier society.
Well, it's well said. I have time for one last question for you, Randy, and it's what makes Randy Charach smile?
My kids, I have 4 daughters, my wife, so my family, and they make me smile all the time. Our dog, Lila, she makes me smile. And then the other thing is, just recently I started playing pickleball, and that makes me smile and laugh. I love it. It's so fun. It's great exercise, and so I find time 3 times a week or so to go out and play pickleball for a couple hours, and I'm laughing and smiling the whole time. But I would say, really, again, there's 2 answers to the last 2 questions. That one was the secondary kind of. I could probably come up with 10 things like that, and they're all small individual things. But family is most important to me, and it gives me the most joy.
That is absolutely amazing. I love that answer. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone out there, this has been Coffee with Chris. This is all the time we have for our fabulous Canadian icon, Randy Charach. Make sure you go check him out. Google, Yahoo, Ask Jeeves if you're that young. Remember, everybody, to smile, to inspire, and have a fantastic day. Thank you so much, Randy.
My pleasure.